Thank you very much, Elaine. I'm Vicki Benson. I have the privilege of being an arts grant maker at the McKnight Foundation across the river. I have stood in front of this conference telling you all about this place for years, frightening you about blizzards, and butchering our Minnesota accent by saying things like, oh boy, well, you know, if you go up to Manitoba, you know, you've gone too far. But I'm not going to do that this time. Because you made it. You're here. You're in Minnesota. You finally got here. You've traveled north or east or west, or our friends from Canada have come south of the border for some warmth. And you're here, and we've been working hard, and we've been creating, and we've been playing, and we've been thinking about this conference for a couple of years. And we've put a great deal of love in this conference, and I hope you can feel that, because who couldn't use a little bit more love these days? So Janet introduced our fantastic conference committee, and it's been a privilege for me to work with these great colleagues. But in particular, I've had just a great time working with my good friend and colleague, Glenn Northington, as co-chair of this great conference. Thank you, Glenn. And look at us all together. Just look at us. Collectively, we are the stewards of extraordinary resources in support of the lifeblood of our communities, the arts and culture in our communities. We've come together to learn, to share, to celebrate, and to change. And we do good work, but I believe we can do a lot better. And it's my hope, because many of us are grant makers and artists, and because artists lead, it's my hope that we become the sector that philanthropy turns to around racial equity and cultural equity. I know that together we can take down the barriers that have existed for so long, way too long. I know that we can do it. And let us change faster than we've done in the past, and I know we can. So, again, you are very welcome here. We are so happy that you're here. And now let me tell you about St. Paul's great mayor. Mayor Coleman took office in 2006, and he's accomplished much in this great city of ours, a city that is one of the most livable in America. He has led on energy, the environment, sustainability, education, and the revitalization of our downtown. He is the past president of the National League of Cities. But most important, he is the artists' mayor. Mayor Coleman understands that a livable city has to have a strong arts infrastructure, and he believes that the arts are a pathway to a stronger, more vital community. Mayor Coleman really, really gets it. So please help me in giving a big GIA rousing welcome to the Honorable Christopher B. Coleman, Mayor of St. Paul.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me. A good way to start a Monday morning. So grateful for your support. The challenge actually in the city of St. Paul and in this area particularly, but St. Paul in particular, we have so many generous funders and so many great partners like the McKnight Foundation. We have the St. Paul Foundation, Mardag Bigelow. We have Target. We have what we call Generous Mills. We have all these things. but there's actually a problem for being mayor in the city of St. Paul is because in St. Paul, because we're one of the old Knight Ridder newspaper towns, we also have the Knight Foundation. And the hardest thing that I have to do is make sure that I credit McKnight when McKnight is supposed to be credited and Knight when Knight is supposed to be credited. And I have messed that up on a couple of occasions. And so we want to thank the McKnight Foundation for all of your support. I always feel when we have visitors in from out of town, I have to do a little explaining about this community and about the city. You know, Vicki did her best Minnesota accent, which, you know, wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Although, if you actually, you know, if you ever saw the movie Fargo that made fun of our accent, that was actually the former governor of Alaska. That was her accent. It wasn't Minnesota's accent. We do tend to spend a little bit more time on our O's than most normal human beings, but it's okay. We are actually 200 miles north of Toronto, which people don't always understand. Garrison Keillor once described a Minnesotan extrovert as someone who looks at the other person's shoes. We're very friendly. We are extremely friendly. We will give you directions anywhere except for to our own house. We're kind of shy that way. But if you do see someone walking down the street looking at their own feet in the city of St. Paul, they may be an introvert, but most likely they're looking at the haiku in the sidewalk that we have been putting out for many, many years. Public Arts St. Paul, along with other folks, embedded an artist in our Public Works Department, which I thought was one of the greatest concepts of all time. And so now as you walk down the streets, you're likely to see poetry in the sidewalk. We actually have a book and a map, I think, of all the different poetry. And whenever we go out to replace sidewalks, we say, you know, we're not just replacing sidewalk, we're building community, and we're building a funky artistic community and making a real statement about how we value arts in the city of St. Paul. When I took office in 2006, we had our kind of strategic planning session. We got our staff together, our department directors. We spent a day over at Coleman Park, which if you get a chance to go over there, is a beautiful, beautiful facility, one of the last free zoos in the country. But more than that, it has a conservatory. It has just an incredible, beautiful lake to walk around. It has all these things. But as we sat there all day talking about, infrastructure and education and public safety, we got to the end of the day and mapped out the plan for where we wanted to take the city over the next 4 years. It has now turned into 11. And I paused at the end of that day and I said, this is all great. Everything that we're doing here is important. Obviously, education, number one priority. Public safety, number one priority. We have a lot of number one priorities. But we got to the end of the day and I said, there is something missing. And they said, no, we've covered everything. I said, no. We're missing what Jimmy the Greek used to call the intangible factors. We're missing the thing that is going to make our city the kind of place that people are going to want to live. People are going to want to open up a business. Millennials are going to want to come to. And we dubbed that the soul of the city, that artistic part of the city that made your city have a pulse and vibrancy and made it into something other than just bricks and mortar. And so I have been very blessed in our journey over the last 11 years to have our arts and cultural director, Joe Spencer, who is here, who has really led our work in turning St. Paul not just into the most livable city, but the funkiest city in the region, and we are very proud to wear that label. So I want to give Joe Spencer a round of applause for his work. We are a grant maker in the arts. We have a half-cent sales tax where we take 10% of that half-cent sales tax and we invest it in arts. We have been able to do some great things with that. We have been able to sponsor the Jazz Festival, which continues to grow every summer. When I was on the City Council, I had some discretionary funds as I left the City Council that I handed over to Public Arts St. Paul, and through that they were able to have a stone carving symposium. We brought artists from all of our sister cities across the world. I think there were 10 or more artists that were out on the college of St. Paul College's front lawn carving these incredible works of art for weeks on end. As a result of that, actually, at one point, there was a committee from Washington, D.C. that had been in search of an artist to do a little project that they were doing. They stumbled upon a man from Changsha, China, Master Lei, who put just this incredible sculpture out in Phelan Park out in the northeast part of the city of St. Paul. They liked his work so much that they hired him to do their project, which turned out to be the Martin Luther King Memorial in Washington, D.C. And so I'm always very proud of that connection, that because we had a focus on arts, because we believed in the importance of arts in a community, and because we supported that commitment and that belief, that we were able to play a part in that historic moment when they unveiled the first memorial to someone other than a president on the Capitol Mall. You know, a lot of times people are criticized, governments particularly are criticized because they want to do something that's a little bit more beyond kind of the standard grade linoleum throughout their city. You know, if you try to do a funky fountain, you know, you'll get criticized for that. If you try to support a jazz festival, for years people said, you know, I like that Joe Spencer guy, but I don't really understand what he does. And I said, you know what, that's okay that you don't understand it. Other people understand it, and the important part is the folks that will most understand it are the people that are going to see the transformation in our city. But when you get criticized from a governmental agency standpoint, putting 1% of a cost of construction of a building into an arts arts project at that building, you tend to get a backlash from some of the folks in the community. But one of the things that makes that easier for us to withstand is the partnership and support of all the grant makers in this room. To be able to go to the public and say, yes, we are putting money into this project, but we are also receiving funds from our foundation partners like McKnight, or Knight, or Target, or Cargill, or any of the other funders that are doing that. Because when you lift up your voices and say, this is an important value, this is an intrinsic value to our community, and this matters, then it helps us tell that story, and it helps us fulfill that commitment and maintain that commitment to arts in the city of St. Paul and in communities across this country. It would be the easiest thing in the world to say, well, you know, these are tough times, we're challenged budgets, we went through a recession, we're not coming out as strong as we want, et cetera, et cetera. There are 1,000 reasons for us not to invest in the arts in the city of St. Paul. But there is one reason to do it, and the reason why we do it is because that unless we do that, we are not building the vibrant community that we want St. Paul to be. When we built the Green Line project, the light rail between St. Paul and downtown Minneapolis, the largest public infrastructure project in the world, not the world. I'm sorry, I'm channeling my inner Donald Trump this morning. Huge project, biggest project ever. You know, it's such an easy applause line. I don't know what I'm going to do November 9th. I mean, that will be taken off the table. Largest public infrastructure project in the state of Minnesota. That I'm pretty sure about. I'm pretty sure about that one. But the fact of the matter is, we made arts a centerpiece to that project. We didn't just say that this was going to be a transportation vehicle to move people from point A to point B. This was going to be a chance for us to rebuild and reweave the fabric of a community that had been destroyed by the building of a freeway many, many years ago. And because we had that commitment to arts, because we had that commitment to equity, which was an incredibly important part of the conversation, because we had a commitment to lifting everyone up instead of pushing everyone out, we have created something very, very special. Last week we dedicated a plaza, or last month we dedicated a plaza on Western and University along the Green Line. One of the stops that wasn't going to be included on that because it didn't meet the federal criteria for funding a project. We said, no, we need this line to serve people. We need to make sure that the people that are transit dependent actually have access to that line, and so we built additional stops in low-income neighborhoods along the line. But as part of that, we are building up those neighborhoods, and we are creating cultural destinations. And so Little Mekong, which is the cultural district around Western and Selby, is not just businesses, but now we have created this beautiful public plaza where people can sit and contemplate, where people can rest as they shop or eat along the avenue, where people can just recognize that they are a part of this community. So if you're an immigrant from Southeast Asia, if you're an immigrant from East Africa or from South America, you are welcome in this community, and one of the ways we demonstrate that is by how we commit to the arts and the culture of those communities and incorporate them into the city of St. Paul. This is tough. Community building is difficult work. It's a lot easier now because we seem to have found the key to success to community building. It used to be complicated plans and long processes. Now we just need someone to open up a microbrewery in a neighborhood, and that solves everything. But as we transform, we need to double down. We need to recommit to the heart and soul of our community, to the artistic expression that we find in our community. The artists in Lower Town. You know, one of the things I'm most proud of is the work that we've done to transform downtown St. Paul. When I speak to someone that has familiarity with the Twin Cities and the city of St. Paul but hasn't been here for 7 or 8 or 10 years or more, they are blown away by how we have changed in downtown. But one of the threats to that is that, you know, typically community has artists go into old warehouse neighborhood, you know, like Tribeca or any of these places, Lower Town for us in downtown St. Paul. They make it cool, and then they get kicked out, and they get sent off somewhere else. One of the things, and this is the challenge that we're facing as we go forward, which is we have embedded a large part of that arts community through supportive and sustainable and permanent affordable artist housing in the Lower Town area. The Schmidt Artist Lofts, hopefully you'll get a chance to go over there and see there. I'm actually going to quit my job, not that I make that much money, but I'm going to quit my job and claim I'm an artist just so I can live at the Schmidt Artist Lofts, which is one of the just absolutely gorgeous project. But we have embedded that, our arts community into the West 7th neighborhood. But in the Lower Town neighborhood, as we change and make it a more desirable place to live, we can't forget that the arts are the center and the heart of that, and we can't afford to lose the arts community as we grow the downtown and the Lower Town area. Those are some of the things that you can help us with. How do you actually make sure that as we go forward and build and rebuild our communities, we do so in a way that lifts all of our artists up, make sure that we retain our soul, and make sure that we build the kind of community that we want to build, that is equitable, that is open to all, and creates the kind of spaces where we are vibrant and we continue to grow, but we also are so proud of at the end of the day. Thank you all for the work that you do. This is an amazing organization. We're so proud to be a part of that. You got a great conference the next couple days. Hopefully you get a chance to get out, see the beautiful colors, enjoy this. Don't buy into this idea that Minnesota is cold. It is not. It is like, you know, this is the bottom. It never gets any worse than this. The snow that you see on TV, it's all an arts effect. It's actually not cold. But we do love having you here. Thank you for having your conference in St. Paul, and continue to support the arts. Thank you so much.